Hi, I'm Maggie. Thank you for stopping by Crafts the Charm today. You are most welcome here. And hopefully you're here to see our fourth ornament for our Big Thunder Mountain inspired tree. This ornament is really fun and easy to make, and it's very cute. And I say that because I'm not taking credit for how cute it is. You'll see. Let's go have some fun.
I'm going to start with my inspiration, which is this really cute sign that was at Disneyland when they closed the Big Thunder ride there. And it says, "Notice mine closed, mountain goat infestation, seeking miners with herding experience." I just thought that was really cute and funny. So I thought I'd like to make some signs for the tree, and I'd like to keep with the mountain goat theme. We have goats on the tree, so it makes sense. Now, I would say if you want to, take this sign, just find an image of it on the internet and print it out, and then follow the rest of my process with this sign. I think it's adorable, but I wanted to make something that was somewhat original. I can't claim originality. It's based on this ride at Disney World and Disneyland, and it's based on this sign, but I thought I would try to make a couple of original signs to go on our tree. So I went to Wikimedia Commons and I did a search on goat line drawing because I wanted to imitate somewhat the style of the sign from Disneyland. And I'll just show you some of the images that came up that I thought were possibilities. What we want, or what I want, is to have as much of the goat as possible in the sign. I don't want anything in front of the goat, unless I'm going to do a sign where there are multiple goats or goats and something else. So I hadn't really decided on the signs exactly at this point. There are a lot of weird images that aren't goats. A lot of cherubs. So those were some of the goats that I found. And the reason I like Wikimedia Commons is because quite often you can find images that are in the public domain, or you can find images with some sort of Creative Commons license so that you can use them freely. Now, I also searched for an image of dynamite because our goat has a stick of dynamite in his mouth. And strangely, the only search that I did where I got anything that was at least a reference photo of dynamite was on explosive. Searches for dynamite and TNT and stick of dynamite didn't work, although I did get a diagram of the composition of a stick of dynamite. But I did find at least some reference photos, nothing I'll be able to use on the poster. And then I wanted to look for some examples of old-timey sort of posters, and a number of searches didn't work, but what seemed to work best for me was old newspaper advertisement. So I found a few that were really cute. The one that I decided to use is this one for William Polson and Company corn flour. So I grabbed that one and I brought it into Photoshop. And briefly, what I did was I used the clone stamp tool to take that background and used it to erase most of the image and all of the words here, except for, I think, the name of the printer at the bottom. Then I selected a goat image that I thought would work well and brought that in. And I worked with layers a little bit just so that the bottom of this goat is, I don't know if it's in the water, so I worked with layers a little bit so that that was sort of covered up by some of the decorative detail at the bottom of this image. I then did my best to erase the background around the goat. I'm not an artist, but I did my best to sketch in some dynamite in the goat's mouth. Now I used a font called Huët, which is a free font from Google for the word Dr. Charms. The idea for this sign is it's going to be some sort of goat repellent, but sort of in the style of a snake oil ad. So some sort of cure-all kind of ad, but this is a repellent to repel the goats because there's a goat infestation. Another ad that I looked at had this funny text at the bottom, medals awarded at all fairs wherever exhibited, and I loved that. So I just copied that text and put it in on my sign. And for the rest of my text, I thought I'd claim that it's scientific because I think that's the sort of claim that was generally made in the 1800s, that it's guaranteed, and then I added a list of other things that it will repel besides goats. And then I tried to make the words look like they were sort of worn off by taking a color from the background and using a brush that's sort of looks like a scattering of bits, and just put that over all of the text and over the goat. And I also gave his dynamite some sparkle, because I think the dynamite that the goat is holding is lit at Disneyland, but I'm not positive, but that does make it funnier. Now, if you want to use my images, I'm including the image right here, and feel free to pause, take a screenshot, and use this image if you like it, or modify it if you want to, of course. You should feel free to use this other image that I created as well, or again, modify it. I thought a town meeting made sense. I thought that would be fun. A sign for a town meeting where we need to discuss the goat infestation. And this goat actually looks sort of like the goats that I made, in that it's super furry. So I made this sign as well. And again, please feel free to use it if you want to. So I'm just going to cut those out. I printed them out. They're about 3 by 5. For my tiny little tree that I'm setting up as my Big Thunder Mountain tree, the smaller sign is definitely a better size for the tree. The other sign, the town meeting sign, is a little bit larger, and I feel that it's a little too large. Now I'm going to use these craft sticks, and I have the larger size craft sticks here. And I need 9 of them for the larger sign. But we only need 7 for the smaller sign. So I'm just going to measure out a size that seems reasonable for each sign and mark the sticks and then cut them. And these sticks can be cut with scissors, or I have some shears here that I'm using to cut them, but you can cut them any way you like. It's just you really don't need to get fancy with a knife or a saw or anything. So once they're cut, I'm going to glue 2 more craft sticks to the back of each of them, and I'm using the larger craft sticks on the one that is made up of 9 pieces, and I'm using the smaller craft sticks on the one that's made up of 7 pieces. And I'm just gluing those to the back with wood glue. Now this surface, it's a card table and it's not flat, so after I glued them on, I moved this to a flat surface and I put something over the top that they wouldn't stick to, and then I put some heavy books on top while it dried. Now I actually tried a few different paints. I want this to look like old rough wood, and that's a little bit hard to do with the craft sticks. Now fortunately I had some older craft sticks and they had some sort of interesting color variation to them, and then I mixed the newer craft sticks in a way that I thought made sense. Like, you know how sometimes if you're replacing fence pieces, you often have to replace pieces that are near each other, so I put a few of them near each other and then one in another location. But I couldn't really find a way to rough them up so that it would be easy to dry brush over them and get some texture. And so after trying a few different colors and techniques, what I decided to do was to paint them this oatmeal color. And this is the Folk Art Home Decor Chalk Paint, and the color is oatmeal, and it's a sort of a greenish tan. It doesn't look like oatmeal to me. But I brushed it on, hopefully you can tell, kind of roughly. So I'm leaving some places unpainted, but it's mostly painted. That's on the front. On the back, I felt it wasn't quite as important, and it was slow and it was using a lot of paint, so I mixed some water in so that I could quickly paint the back of this. So the paint on the back is a little more filled in because it was wet, so it covered very well. But this chalk paint's quite dry, as I'm sure you know if you've ever worked with chalk paint. So it was easy to brush it on and leave some places unpainted. I then used my favorite brown Deco Art Americana Burnt Umber, and I really just dry brushed that over the top. And I also did a little bit of back and forth with the brush. And in doing that, I got a surprisingly woody looking paint on there. So I thought that worked really well. Now, of course, we're not even going to see most of this because we're going to be putting our poster over it. But I did this on both the front and the back. And on the back around the popsicle sticks, or the craft sticks, I put a little bit more of it, sort of as if it were dirty and dirt had gotten in the cracks around the piece of wood holding the other pieces of wood together. Because if it's on a tree, you might see the back of it. When you're taking it off and putting it on, you want it to look consistent. So I did paint both sides. Now I didn't like how clean and new my little posters looked, so I soaked them both with some water, just dabbing the water on, but I did get them thoroughly wet. and then I dried them with a blow dryer, holding them in my hand and just crinkling them a little bit, just to give them a little bit of texture and to age them a little bit. And the white one, the town meeting sign, I loved how it looked when it was wet. It got a sort of a gray color. So what I did was I took a little bit of gray acrylic paint, a light gray color. I believe the color is called Granite, and it's just an apple barrel acrylic paint. And I mixed that with water, and after I had dried it, I brushed that on and then just wiped it off with a paper towel wherever it was too heavy, just to give that a more aged look. Bright white just isn't going to work for these ornaments. Now, in placing them on the wood, I didn't want to place them exactly straight or exactly centered. So the goat repellent I placed a little bit down and to the right, and for the town meeting it's crooked, and I thought I would curl the edge over at the top as if it was coming off. And I just used Mod Podge first of all on the back of them to adhere them to the wood, and then over the top of them completely to seal them. And for the town meeting one where it's curled up, I put the Mod Podge on the back of that piece, the piece that's curled up and under it, so that it was completely covered with Mod Podge. And this is the non-glossy Mod Podge. This is the matte Mod Podge. And finally, to hang them, I just took a little bit of my 22 gauge florist's wire, although I'm sure lighter wire would be fine as well, and I made a little loop and twisted the end and hot glued that to the back. This isn't exactly to hang it on the tree, it's to put a hanger through to hang it on the tree. If I were making a loop for hanging on a tree, I would make a larger loop, but I have these sort of below the top, and I intend to put a hanger through them. And here they are on the tree. And again, I do think that the town meeting is a little large for this tiny tree, but I think it would look fine on a regular sized tree. Or I could shrink it down and make it the same size as the other one, or even smaller. They are a little large for ornaments. Now, the Dollar Tree sells these faux succulents, which I think are great, and I especially liked these ones that were the dusty blue-green color. These are clips, and then one of these is not a clip, it's just a stem. And I thought those would look great in the tree. They're sort of reminiscent of the sort of bushes that you see on the Big Thunder ride. So I just put those in the tree, or clipped them to the tree as part of the tree decoration. And here's the tree with the lights on.
So what did you think of our little goat signs? I just thought those were so cute when I saw pictures of them on the internet. I knew that something like that had to be included on our tree. I hope you enjoyed making them. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. That tells me that you enjoy this sort of content and that I should bring you more. And if you like this sort of content, please subscribe to Crafts the Charm. Thank you for spending time with me today. Take care.